Thank you, Donald. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to an extended show. I'm going to be here with you until 10 o'clock tonight, after which Ian Collins will pick it up. And that's all because the BBC sponsored leaders' debate, which at breakfast time this morning, I have to be honest, didn't look very exciting because the leaders of the two major parties in British politics were not going to be there. But something changed. And Jeremy Corbyn, who many people think is a disorganised shambles, played a very clever card and said, of course I shall take part in these leaders' debates. But Mrs May is not going to be taking part in these debates. And I'm asking you, between now and 7:30, when the debate starts, whether you think it's right or wrong for Mrs May not to appear. And at 7:30, we will cross live to the debate here on LBC. You will listen to every single word of it with us. And at 9 o'clock, we will pick up and I'll make one or two comments and we'll get your reactions. And, of course, you know the number. It's 03456060973. You can text on 84850. You, of course, can tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. You can watch us on Facebook Live. So do. And I'm sure at 9 o'clock, a lot of people are going to be getting involved. Now, I've got with me Theo Asherwood, LBC's political editor. Theo, would you just explain exactly the format, what's going to happen, who's going to be there, and how important you think this is?
We are now in the fourth season, if you like, of televised debates. If you go back to 2010, 2015, the referendum, and now the 2017 general election. And it is the first time, Nigel, that this has blown up in a Prime Minister's face. Before, with David Cameron and Gordon Brown, it was all locked down beforehand.
Because wasn't it David Cameron, actually, that encouraged all this to happen back in 2010?
Absolutely, and Gordon Brown was desperate, so he decided to take part alongside Nick Clegg, who emerged as the star of the show. So there were some negotiations. Labour left their options open. They didn't say that Jeremy Corbyn wouldn't take part, although they did say that the only person that Jeremy Corbyn would debate is the Prime Minister. Even this morning, at Jeremy Corbyn's press conference on the NHS and schools, they were refusing to take part. They were refusing to say whether Mr Corbyn was going to take part or even who would take part. They just said, wait a little longer. You had the Tory spinners out saying, well, it's all chaotic. They don't know what they're doing. It's just another example of the utter shambles that the Labour machine is in.
Is that sort of coalition of chaos type stuff?
That's the one,
yes.
Nigel. Yes. And they got played. The Tories got played because just before lunchtime, Jeremy Corbyn stood on a stage and said, I'm going to take part, I'm going to Cambridge. He canned all of his afternoon's events, passed those on to his deputies in Angela Rayner and John Ashworth, and got back to King's Cross, up on a train to Cambridge. And now the question is, where is the Prime Minister? And she's been answering questions this afternoon and facing a barrage of criticism, and something that is very noticeable. She's at a factory in Bath, and something that's very noticeable from following that event is that the mood has changed, because when I went and covered Theresa May in her home constituency of Maidenhead 4 weeks ago now, the workers were very respectful. They sat there and they asked questions because they're in front of their boss. They don't want to embarrass their bosses. They don't want to embarrass the Prime Minister. And they ask their standard questions. And now the questions are getting sharper. The same respect, the same deference to the Prime Minister just isn't there now. And that reflects perhaps a mood in the country. Is the Prime Minister running scared? She's decided to put up Amber Rudd. And there is another risk, Nigel. Because if Amber Rudd does well and Jeremy Corbyn does badly, will people look to Amber Rudd and say, is this really the Prime Minister now?
Isn't there another slight problem with Amber Rudd? I mean, had she put up David Davis, I would understand it. Had she put up maybe even Boris on a good day, I'd have understood it. Because they tried at the start of this to frame this as the Brexit election. Vote for us to get Brexit. There's nobody else. The other lot won't see Brexit through. It'll be this coalition of chaos. We're strong and stable. Gosh, that seems a long time ago, doesn't it? And yet, the person she's put up to represent her is an absolute arch Remainer. I mean, a Euro-federalist fanatic within the Conservative Party. Isn't that also a huge risk?
She's the sister of Roland Rudd, of course, who is one of the arch Remain campaigners. I mean, he's at the forefront and still is at the forefront to get a soft Brexit.
She herself...
Absolutely. She voted Remain and was forefront of that campaign.
If you look at her whole political career, European Union membership has been absolutely central to everything. And isn't she slightly vulnerable from the rest of the panel on this?
Very vulnerable, and vulnerable also to Jeremy Corbyn, because you have to remember, Jeremy Corbyn supported the triggering of Article 50. He made that a lot easier for the Prime Minister, and he took a huge amount of flack from his own side, from his own MPs. That's now looking like a genius decision.
Do you think Corbyn... I mean, firstly, do you think Corbyn's the one they're all going to attack tonight because he's the biggest fish? And secondly, do you think Corbyn will come out quite strongly in favour of Brexit tonight?
I think he will come out strongly in favour of Brexit. In fact, he's giving a speech on Brexit tomorrow, setting out the party's position. And I bet you something else as well. Those Remain MPs within the Labour Party, Nigel, will keep their fingers off the Twitter. They'll keep their mouths away from the radio and the airwaves.
And they will Diane Abbott?
I think so, especially Diane Abbott. But they will let Jeremy make his speech, because of course we all know that it's well thought that Jeremy Corbyn is actually a Eurosceptic, a leaver, but was forced into that position by his own party. But that's crucial tonight. Jeremy Corbyn up against Amber Rudd. And if I was in the shoes of the strategists for the Lib Dems, the strategists for the SNP, and of course it's not Nicola Sturgeon, it's Angus Robertson. Who's
their leader in Westminster
and the deputy leader of the party. I'd be saying support Jeremy Corbyn, because if you want to get any levers, your hands on any levers of power, whether that's some sort of coalition deal or supply and demand, confidence and supply deal, what you have to do is you're going to have to accept that Jeremy Corbyn is going to be Prime Minister. You need him to do well. You need to do well. Therefore, go after Amber Rudd.
That'll be fascinating. And she's boycotting it. And are they all going to condemn her? Do you think, apart from Amber Rudd?
There's a lot of anger on the Conservative, amongst the candidates. 4 weeks ago, they were sailing 20 points up in the polls on Labour. Now they're going out on the doorstep, and they're getting pushback, and they're getting a question about whether this message of strong and stable leadership really is so strong and stable. Could this be
the biggest event of the election?
It's the biggest event so far. Yes, absolutely.
I agree with that. Theo, stay with us. We're going to sit here together. We're going to watch the whole thing, listen to it. It'll all be played, every word of it, here on LBC. But let's see what you think. What does David in Worksop think? Should Theresa May be there, David, or is she clever not to be?
I think she's pulling a really good stroke, and I'll tell you why. If you look at the people, the parties, the majority are of the left of centre. There's only going to be two right of centre. So what will happen, which happened with you when you were in the debate with the Greens and the Scott SNP.
And Plaid.
They were disgraceful that you kept trying to come back to facts and policies, and they didn't want to know. And right at the end, they did a huddle, and only Ed Miliband came over. He was actually pleasant. But that's what they'll do with Theresa May. They'll try and gang up on her, twist what she says, and she's got everything to lose and nothing to gain. She's playing a really good stroke. And I'm really glad she's not doing it.
But why have they picked Amber Rudd, David? I mean, I don't know whether you're a Brexiteer or not, David, but they've picked an arch Remainer to represent them on what has now become the most important public event of this election campaign when they say, vote for us to get Brexit.
Yeah, I know it should have been Dominic Raab or Ian Duncan Smith. Yeah, I'm a Brexiteer, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I
mean, maybe, David, she'll surprise us, because when the Prime Minister was asked 4 times by Jeremy Paxman whether she herself, as a Remainer last year, now supported Brexit, she refused to answer. So maybe Amber Rudd will surprise us all, David, and say she's been through a Damascene conversion. I doubt it. But you think she's smart to avoid this. Well, I wonder, David, whether she's smart, because actually, the more she appears before the public, the weaker her support's becoming.
She's a fantastic politician, but she's not the best. It's hard to appear under. You can do it, and some of the other people can do it, but not everybody can appear under intense scrutiny. That doesn't mean she's not a great Prime Minister. It doesn't mean she's not be great to negotiate, but it just means that she's probably not as skilled as some of the people there, and it's hard to well, they'll be taking on 5. You watch how the left stick together, and it was 5 against 2.
But you know something, David? What I learned from that, I mean, I did this big debate, as you say, 2 years ago, so a lot of that's been going through my head this afternoon. But actually, in some ways, if the political class all gang up on you and try and fight you and try and say there's no problem with immigration into this country, for argument's sake, actually, in the eyes of the viewing public, that can do you a lot of good too. David, I get your point. You think she's being very smart. What does Manny in Farnham Common think? Good evening.
Hi, Nigel.
Hi. What do you think?
I think she's got it wrong, actually. I very much, because I'm a Conservative voter, typically I've voted for them for the last couple of elections, but I'm sort of having my doubts. 3 weeks ago, if you'd asked me that question, I'd probably say I vote for Theresa May. But I'm having my doubts genuinely because, what has she got to hide? At the end of the day, she might not have the best public speaking skills, but that's not really what the public is judging you on. They're judging you on your policies, on how you're projected as a leader. In the 21st century, the times that we're in, that's one of the key skills. Leadership is all about being in the public eye and debating, and, it's a bit of healthy debate.
But Manny, you're a Conservative voter. If she can't do it, why is she leader?
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think she's got it wrong. She's obviously started off calling the election, which she probably didn't need to. And obviously with the points lead had just come down drastically, as you mentioned, or Ian Dale mentioned a few minutes ago. I think she's making another mistake here. She should be coming onto the TV and saying to people, look, I'm here, I can answer I can debate well, and I think she needs to be more comfortable in herself because she's good at what she does, she's good with people. I don't see any reason why she shouldn't be there.
Manny, thank you very much indeed. Very clear view there from Manny, and I suspect the majority will think it's wrong of her not to appear. If you disagree, let me know. This is an extended programme. I'm going to be with you until 10 o'clock tonight. This debate will start at 7:30 and you will hear every single word of it here on LBC. And then at 9 o'clock, you will get your chance to say what you think about the debate, about Corbyn suddenly appearing and the Prime Minister not. Right now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, and it's 7:15. It's the big leaders' debate, the 7-way leaders' debate that starts in under 15 minutes' time. Jeremy Corbyn now will be there representing the Labour Party, but the Prime Minister will not be there representing the Conservative Party. And already I've had a caller saying it's really smart of her because all that would happen is they'd all gang up on her. But I had another caller saying that really it doesn't show great leadership. And I get on text, in my view, the PM is refusing to take part in the leaders' debates because she's utterly incapable of defending her policies. Her leadership is anything but strong and stable. That's from Raj in Harrow. Yeah, we're not hearing much about strong and stable. It seems a long time ago we were talking about that. Another one I like here. Margaret Thatcher once used a good Lincolnshire term, frit, meaning frightened. Whatever the spin, whatever the claims, Mrs May appears frit tonight. She should be there, says Sean from Lincoln. I'm going to Hull next. Imran. Imran, do you think it's right or wrong that the Prime Minister has decided not to take part in this leaders' debate?
To be honest, Nigel, nice to speak to you anyway. To be honest, Nigel, I think she's right because the last outing on TV was absolutely woeful. It was embarrassing. So to be putting her back on telly when it's not a hand-selected audience, which is what she's been doing up and down the country, I don't blame her for not going on because she's woeful. She's incapable of defending her politics. She gets heckled by the audience. This woman's not strong and stable. She's weak and wobbly.
Does she? I mean, do you get the impression, Imran, that she's someone that U-turns a bit on things?
U-turns. She's made more U-turns in the manifesto. I think it's been used in the next driving test, Nigel. She's absolutely woeful.
So, Imran, are you confident, given what you've just said, that she's the right leader to go and negotiate a good Brexit deal for us?
She's far from it. Absolutely far from it. Now, she's prepared to walk away because her and her chums in the south of England, they don't need to worry about whether it's a hard Brexit or not. They're multi-millionaires. They don't think about us northerners, and how people are seeing this is beyond me. This woman is, as I said, how is she strong and stable? She will not debate other leaders. That's undemocratic, in my opinion.
Well, I do think you're right in one way, because I think the precedent was set, wasn't it, back in 2010, that there would be leaders' debates ahead of these big elections, and we had a series of debates last year ahead of the referendum, and now suddenly this year it's not happening. I do think, Imran, a lot of people are going to feel a bit diddled by this. Do you think this is Jeremy Corbyn's big chance?
I think the Labour have pulled an absolute blinder by appearing on this, because the thing is, in May, she can't hide behind the media constantly, tarnish Corbyn, and absolutely, she's silver lining May. However, Corbyn has pulled the blinder by attending this, and I'll tell you why it is his big chances, because the man speaks sense. The man, even yourself, Nigel, acknowledged how good he was on the previous show on RTV the other night.
I did.
And that's coming from yourself,
No,
Nigel.
do you know what, Imran? Quite often, I think it's important to comment, not always on whether you agree with people's policies, but on how they're performing. And I didn't think that Jeremy Paxman laid a finger on him, frankly. I mean, yeah, sure, he was evasive about some of the security stuff, but actually he was calm, he kind of smiled, he made the audience laugh a couple of times. And actually, Imran, I said on this show, the day the Labour manifesto was launched, I said, wow, I've never seen him so animated. And he now looks like, as he goes round the country, by the way, campaigning exactly the way that I did, speaking to big town hall meetings.
I agree.
He looks like he's having a ball.
I agree, Nigel. I agree. And to be honest, that, in my opinion, is a strong and stable leader, somebody who's taken it from all angles, from the media, from day one. And here he is, the public is slowly swaying towards him, whereas our strong and apparently stable leader in May, she's a coward, she's not taking part in this debate, and when she does meet audiences, it's hand selective, because she cannot defend her politics over the last couple of years.
But is Corbyn capable, given how many fanatical Remainers he's got around him in the Labour Party, is he capable, if he became Prime Minister, of going to Brussels and doing this negotiation?
In my opinion, he's beyond capable, because I think he understands we need a good relationship with them when we're coming away. We don't want a messy marriage, which is what's going to happen, a messy divorce, which is what's going to happen under May. We want a civilised divorce so everybody gets best out of the deal.
Yeah, but we don't want to surrender either, do we?
We don't want to surrender either, absolutely not. But I don't think getting a good deal is surrendering. I think getting no deal is more than surrendering. It's foolish, and as I said, it will cripple some parts of this country.
Imran,
100%.
You're a man of strong and clear opinions. I thank you for the call. Well, nobody can be in any doubt as to what Imran thinks. He thinks Corbyn actually is capable of going and getting us a good deal. I wonder what you think. Let me know. Gareth in Doncaster, is she right to boycott this?
Good evening, Nigel. Yeah, I think she is, but for probably different reasons. I find the whole thing embarrassing for everybody involved. I don't.
Do you?
I don't really see any point. It doesn't, for me personally, persuade me to go with one particular party or another. I think it's just got completely out of control, and it's quite Americanised.
Well, that is certainly true. It is quite Americanised. And what is also true, Gareth, is that our elections have become very presidential over the course of the last few decades, where we vote less and less about the name of the candidate on the ballot paper in our constituency. We vote much more for who we either want to be leader, or perhaps even more importantly, who we don't want to be leader. So, yes, all of that is true, Gareth, but it's a function of the modern world. And I guess the reason it's important, it's not just the numbers of people tonight that will listen to it through this programme, watch it. It's tomorrow. It's the day after. It's the day after that. It is the tens of millions who, whether they want to or not, will interact with this, because it'll be picked up by every single comedy show. It'll be in every newspaper. Twitter and Facebook will go mad with it. I think it's difficult, Gareth. I can't agree with you. I think it is quite important.
But do you think, to a certain extent, as far as it goes to, let's say, what happens tonight, will that actually reflect in any capacity next Thursday?
You and I do not know right now
exactly
what is about to kick off in 7 or 8 minutes' time. But it is possible that somebody either shines or somebody completely bombs. And yes, do you know what, Gareth? Actually, I think tonight is a big, important event that may well sway people. We've already seen a shifting in the polls. Yeah, Gareth, I think people will be swayed. I really do. Gareth, I thank you for your call. I'm going to ask Melanie in Greater Manchester what she thinks. Is she right to boycott this?
I think she is, because my view is that, as you probably know from America, the media are not impartial, and in this particular country we have a problem with our broadcast media particularly being biased towards the liberal left. And the questions, the difficult questions, will not be asked of Corbyn, but the difficult questions will be asked of the Conservatives and will be asked of UKIP as well. And so when you can't have what I would regard as a level playing field, the question then comes down, should anybody who is
Melanie,
to right take part in one of these debates?
But Melanie, I understand that. You know, I do understand that, and I felt once or twice that our state broadcaster was pretty unfair to me on many occasions. But people sitting at home aren't stupid. People sitting at home see through this. In this leaders' debate 2 years ago, I said that it was an outrage that people should be able to come from any part of the world, have an HIV test, and if they prove HIV positive, that we would give them drugs to the value of £25,000 every year. There was outrage in the studio and amongst the studio audience and amongst the entire panel. I was absolutely decried by everybody for daring to suggest it. Do you know what, Melanie? People sitting at home, when an opinion poll was done the next week, a very clear majority of the British public thought I was right to raise it and to say it. And surely Theresa May as Prime Minister can deal with some tough questions.
Well, here's the question that I want asked of Jeremy Corbyn, and that's, given his support for terrorist organisations, and given the fact that last time when Labour were in power, they turned the country into what became known as Londonistan. We had Diane Abbott, who refused to vote to proscribe Al-Qaeda of all groups. My prediction to you is that if he does get into power, he will invite Hamas leaders, Palestinian leaders, and he will use the pretext that they are under some kind of threat by the Israeli authorities.
If he invites,
and he will allow them to come to Britain.
If he invites the Israeli, Melanie, if he invites the Israelis as well, that'd be okay. But no, Melanie, maybe your point about his relationship with these organisations. Let's hope that gets discussed this evening. Thank you very much for your call. Now we're going to cross to Cambridge, where this great event is taking place. We're going to go to Vincent McAvenny, LBC senior reporter, and he's there in the spin room in Cambridge. What is going on, Vincent?
Well, all of the journalists are assembled here as the debate is set to kick off in just a few minutes' time, Nigel. And all of the SPADs, of course, are here. They are circling around, whispering in journalists' ears, feeding them the lines ahead of it. There's lots of Frit Theresa May. That's going around from all the opposition parties. It'll be an interesting night tonight, of course. We've got Amber Rudd in place for Theresa May. She has been heckled about this all day. She was doing an event earlier on, and it wasn't just the journalists, Laura Kunsberg, Faisal Islam, who were asking her about why she wasn't coming. It was also members of the public in that audience asking her if she was so strong and stable, why wouldn't she be coming to this tonight?
Well, I'm not surprised. Vincent, just run me through what the format's going to be, please.
Well, the format will see each of the panellists make short opening statements. These will then be followed by questions and debate. The debate will end with closing remarks. And over the course of the programme, there'll be 5 to 6 questions from audience members, which will then be followed by open debate from panellists and moderated by presenter Michelle Hussein. And last week, the representatives drew lots to decide the podium positions and the order of everything. The opening statements, we should be hearing Leanne Wood from Plaid Cymru first, then Caroline Lucas from the Greens. As I said, Home Secretary Amber Rudd here on behalf of the Prime Minister. And then the late announcement, the big ticket, Jeremy Corbyn. I've just seen him drive in. He's now surrounded by police outriders, and he had an escort vehicle with him as well. So whether or not he gets to keep that after the election Thursday, we'll see after tonight. Paul Nuttall, of course, here for UKIP. Angus Robertson for the Scottish National Party. He is, of course, the leader in Westminster. So it's not Nicola Sturgeon tonight. She did the ITV debate, but Angus Robertson here for them. And then, of course, Tim Farron for the Lib Dems as well.
And
And we're just hearing the announcement now. They're starting to go live on the BBC
Okay,
as well.
As soon as they move to Leanne Wood, we will go straight to her. And I've promised the audience they won't miss a single word of this debate here on LBC. Who looks the most nervous, Vincent?
Well, they've just cut to Senate Hall, Michelle Hussein making the opening remarks, and they are all lined up there. Jeremy Corbyn on the second to the left, not the far left, that's Tim Farron tonight.
Right.
And he's looking pretty determined right now. They've just cut to the credits, so I can't see what the reaction is like. We don't get any behind-the-scenes footage here of any cameras or shots or close-ups of them, so we'll be seeing what you see. But already I'm seeing here the Spads are already going in. They're starting to talk to people, and we'll have those opening remarks first, as I said, from Plaid Cymru, from Leanne Wood.
Yeah,
and the jingle is just finishing now. So
we will. Our listeners, Vincent, on LBC, we're going to cover every single word of this. And we will go to analysis afterwards on this extended programme. Vincent, thank you. Well, they're about to get underway. It's going to be a 90-minute debate. As I say, Mr Corbyn is there. The Prime Minister is not there. Amber Rudd, the Home Secretary, is standing in for the Prime Minister. And it would be difficult to imagine that the fact she's not there will not... I would think every single panellist, apart from Amber Rudd, at some point in time during this debate, is going to say, why is your leader simply too scared to appear? It's a big moment for these politicians, Even those of you out there who are deeply cynical about politics and political figures, believe you me, when I did this 2 years ago, as the opening announcements were being read out, even I will confess and share with you, I did feel a little bit nervous. But the one thing that cheered me up is I glanced across quickly to Prime Minister David Cameron, and he looked terrified. And that made me feel a little bit better. And there's generally a feeling with these debates that as a party leader, you've got more to lose than you've got to gain. And that is what has led sometimes in these debates to them being a bit sort of stilted. And we're going to move across. We're going to move across to Leanne Wood, who is ready. Here we go.